School board meeting. You'll be this evening. There are forms up here near Nat over here. So just refill the form out, return it to the board table, and we will call you up at that appropriate time. We also have public comment at the end of our meeting. Anybody on any topic that you'd like to bring up to the board, certainly the same process, just fill out that form and return it to the board's table, and we will bring you up at that appropriate time. Just so you know, all board members were provided background information on the items on the agenda this evening in preparation for tonight's meeting. Our meeting is being live streamed, so we welcome all those who are watching remotely. And with that, we'll begin with our student and staff presentation portion of the meeting, our AP co-teach presentation. So we've got a couple of Portage High School teachers here. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, and the floor is yours. Thank you. Yes. It's on.
It's on, okay. I'm Sarah Cohen, this is Caleb Grimm, and Katarina Katubis-Stam, and we are the AP Math co-teaching cohort. Okay. What we are presenting on the math AP Math co-teaching cohort, this is our 4th year in our program. It began with the 21-22 school year. Mr. Brian Jones, while he was doing his Indiana Principals Leadership Institute for his certification, he worked with Caleb and one of our social studies teachers about creative ways to incorporate professional learning communities within the high school. We've had multiple variations of our program, ours being the original, but we've also had an Algebra 1 2 years ago. Did not last more past the first week of school because class sizes were too big and we did not have the staff to continue with that. We also had an Algebra 2 pre-cal cohort. However, due to staff leaving mid-year, that one had stopped. This year, we brought back Algebra 1 with the help that the high school has redesigned that the West being a freshman wing. So the Algebra 1 teachers are all together, so they are working through that this year. But we are the only group that has lasted all 4 years. We started with pre-cal honors, AP stats and AP calculus, and geometry honors by default, as I was also the teacher for that. We added Algebra 2 honors the 2nd year. The current seniors have been members of this program through the entire duration. So when Caleb and I gave the original presentation in January of 2022 after our first semester, we now have 4 years worth of data to provide you this evening. And the goals for our program have always been to increase enrollment in our AP Math courses, increase achievement on our AP Math tests, because now we've also added AP Pre-Cal as of last year, so we have AP Calculus, AB, AP Pre-Calculus, AP Stats, and the select few students who choose to take AP Calculus BC, decrease our attrition in the honors math courses, and maintain representative minority enrollment in our honors math courses. And then Kat is going to discuss the current structure of the program.
So for our current structure, we have 3 teachers. We have 3 teachers. Myself, I teach pre-AP Algebra 2. Caleb teaches AP Calc and AP Pre-Calc, and Sarah teaches AP Stats and pre-AP Geometry. The pre-APs are new to us this year, but our goal is to keep the kids in the AP classes. So with that, we have our co-taught classes. So that means there's always someone else in the room or someone available to the students. I co-teach in 10th mod for the pre-AP Geometry and Calc. And then Caleb co-teaches during 2nd mod for AP Stats and pre-AP Algebra 2. And Sarah co-teaches during 3rd mod for pre-AP Algebra 2 and AP Pre-Calc. Now with that, we also have a co-plan where we can work together. We meet weekly and we can meet every day too. So we meet weekly to plan our schedules and everything like that, see what kids are learning, and then see where we're gonna be needed the most, and then we talk every day in case we need to. We realize the benefit, the students have multiple experts in the classroom, they can ask questions, they don't have to wait. If I'm teaching one kid, Caleb or Sarah can teach a student that needs help without the student feeling incompetent or asking a question, they don't have to ask it out loud. The students also see us in the classroom, so they know who they're potentially gonna have the next year, which encourages them to join that class, especially in AP classes. If you know who you're gonna have, it's a lot easier. The familiarity is also important when they're going to a class with someone they've never met before, that other teacher's there to help them. And we also notice that there's a lot of benefits for us. If someone's absent, learning never has to stop. We can go into that room, there might be a sub, but we can co-teach and do everything we're supposed to. The common prep is very beneficial because not all teachers get to do that. We get to co-teach and talk to each other. We also get to be in each other's classroom and do daily instructional round, which is something we're bringing into high school for all teachers. We get the benefit of doing it every day. And it's very beneficial because you get the feedback in a very comfortable setting. And depending on the mod of the day you have your co-teach, you might hear something, get to share it with the rest of your classes. And Caleb is going to talk about the results of all this.
All right. So here's the fun part. So we've been doing it for now, this is 4 years. And we can talk all we want about, hey, this works, but now we got some data to back it up. And I'm real excited to show some of this here. So here is we have the 4 goals. So I have data for all the 4 goals. This first one is just about students taking AP math tests. If you look back, I have data back to 2015. The dotted line there represents when we started the program. And so you see the year before we started, we were at 24 students taking the AP math test. And I'll explain the 2 lines there, but we've increased over 260%, right, on students taking these tests. Again, this number for this year is projected. Obviously, the tests are not until May. But we are also set up in order to immediately take advantage of College Board creating AP Pre-Calculus. And so that's what the blue line represents there, is that we added an extra class. So we wanted to also show just the AP Stats, AP Calculus, that's the red line. And you'll also notice while we had an initial bump, this first cohort that we've had as all 4 years, we see another bump for this year again. And so we're really excited to have more and more students taking advantage of the possibilities for the AP classes. Of course, just being in the class isn't always enough, right? We also want to see better scores on there. And so a passing score on an AP test, it's scored out of 5, so a 3, 4, or 5 is considered passing. And so again, we have been tracking the number of students that have passed AP math tests. And while we're still working on this, and again, with the addition of that AP Pre-Calculus, we kind of have extra data thrown in there. And we also won't have data for this year until July. But even just after 3 years, we've already doubled the number of passing scores for the school. And so we hope and expect that this group this year will raise that even further, right, as we go through. So in the year, this is maybe a little more confusing when we look at this one. But our third goal that we had was to decrease attrition, or we have students that drop out of the honors math program every year, right? And so we want to try to keep students in those classes from year to year as much as we can. We've kind of set a goal for ourselves to keep 80% of students year to year, which overall, like from freshman to senior year, that would be about half. Like that would be the goal, right? If you do 80% every year after all 4 years, you would, from freshman to senior year, you'd expect about half. And so I've kind of organized this in 2 ways. The first chart, or the top, the bar graph there is by cohort of students. So you'll see in blue is as freshmen, and then red is as sophomores, and so on. And so you'll see back in like 2020, not very many students stayed through all 4 years. And there is a little dip with that pre-calculus. Again, there's a little bit of hesitation for students to take that very first AP class in that. And so some of them kind of like temporarily drop out, if you will. But we've been able to pull them back in. And so for this group right now, as freshmen, I think there's 96 students that started in honors math, and now 87 are in as seniors. And so we feel really happy about that. We've also been able to create opportunities just to increase how many students are there as freshmen, as you can kind of see at the bottom. So the table will what I have color coded is where this program has been active. And so you'll see that the freshman class this year, we got 137 students in there. And so we hope that will help us to continue to keep those numbers up, right, as we go through. And our last goal had to do with making sure we were representing our school population accurately. Our minority enrollment is just under 50% of any data that I could find. And so our goal here, we're looking at two different things. First, with whatever students started in that honors math class, we wanted to keep that representation all the way through. Like, we didn't want it to dip. And so that's what the bar graph is kind of showing you up at the top. Again, from year to year, seeing if that was able to stay consistent or not for 4 years. And for the most part, I mean, it looks like it has. It was even pretty good before we started that. So like that wasn't a big issue. But the one that I'm probably most, would point to the most is looking at the freshman class from year to year, where the class of 2025, the minority enrollment was 36%, and then this freshman class is up to 50%. That over the course of this program, the students that have been able to start in this program has become more and more representative of our true student population. Let's see. I mean, that's kind of a big update. So thank you. I thank you for letting us speak here. I also want to thank Dr. Allen and Dr. Stevens for your encouragement and support over these 4 years. A big thank you to the PHS admin team. This has been some creative scheduling. So really, Robbie Garcia in particular has been working with us to make sure that we can have common plans and everything like that. That is always a little extra hurdle. And then also thank you to all the students. I mean, we set them up for success, but it's their hard work. And it really takes their dedication to see results like that. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I do. So it sounds like you have 137 now, but how many per class would you say you have more or less?
Like in each of these classes?
Mhm.
It kind of depends on the level. But Sarah, you can correct me, but I think it's like close to 30 students in the freshman classes, right, per class?
It's somewhere between, every geometry class is somewhere between 30 and 35 students.
Okay. So I mean, the freshman classes are full.
So I would think that having 2 adults in that classroom also helps with the classroom management.
Yes, these are typically students that aren't necessarily behavior problems, but they can get distracted if they're not challenged enough, right? And so this is it allows us to not only help students that maybe needed a little extra push, but also push students that are at the top even further, because you can have the second person kind of making even like doing a single student lesson almost to them to kind of advance their understanding.
So what I know about co-teaching, it also allows 2 different people to have a different perspective, a different way of teaching. So as you have a group of students and you kind of just look around and you could tell which ones have that look that they don't understand, and the other one just jumps right in and probably explains it in a different kind of a way, so I know that's very helpful.
We definitely see that regularly. And since we see the students like year after year, we definitely have students that come to me first. We definitely have students that come to Sarah first, definitely have students that come to Kat first. Doesn't matter who's the actual teacher. They just kind of gravitate toward a personality.
And what I do know about, in the elementary setting, that we call it looping. So if students have the same teacher for more than 1 year, it helps build relationships, not only with the students, but with the families, so it's beneficial for everyone.
I agree. Yes.
That's all I have to.
Great. Anybody else have any comments?
One thing I think that Dr. Stevens and I have talked about in regards to this program that's really beneficial as well to our students is when we're talking about the different demographic groups of our students and, some possibilities of the challenges that they may face working to help support a family at home. Those are a lot of students who might typically otherwise not participate in some of these higher level courses because the amount of effort that's also demanded of them outside of school time to study and do those things when they're also trying to help around the house, babysitting younger siblings, helping work to support the family. And so when we're looking at this also and our students from that lower socioeconomic status, those students are also a group that are definitely staying involved in these courses where otherwise they may not have because they have that support and that encouragement. So I'm just grateful. I know Dr. Stevens is as well. When we have seen the program in action, it definitely, the data speaks, but what the kids do in that classroom and you see how they do really rely on that co-teaching and have every opportunity to succeed so long as Caleb said, that they're putting in that effort. So again, it doesn't make the content any easier, but it makes it makes the opportunity more accessible for all kids, and that's what we're looking to do.
Great. Well, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
One more question, in terms of gender, do you find that you have more females or males? Right here, we have 2 females and 1 male, so I don't know if we could, I know in the past, math and science or, the higher number are males, but how is it now in terms of your classes?
My 5 classes are evenly split.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is not noticeable enough that we kept track of it, to be
Mhm,
honest.
mhm.
It seems to be fairly representative of
Good.
what's
That's
going
it.
on.
Good. Well, thanks again for being here this evening. We appreciate certainly your efforts on behalf of our students, and it seems like you all work well together, and I think that's great. And I really like that you say that, the kids pick which one, so that, I think that's an awesome thing too. So congratulations and keep up the good work.
We would like to come, or some of us have the ability to come in and observe, if that's okay, we can make arrangements.
Yeah, we
to
can
do
make
that.
arrangements.
Thank you.
Do you guys still do
Great.
your tally marks of who gets visited?
I know, that was just the first.
Okay,
Kids,
okay.
Trying to get the principals aware of what we were doing too, so that was kind of.
Okay.
That first year was running, we got more people.
That's funny. Well, great. Well, as you know, we have got more meeting. You're welcome to stay, but I'm sure you've got better things to do, so you're also, well, you wouldn't hurt our feelings if you left.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Same to you. Happy Thanksgiving. Okay. Next, we'll move on to agenda are there any adjustments to the agenda from the board? Okay. We have our superintendent's consent agenda, which contains our personnel report for November the 25th, donations report, claims report, and facility use request report. Do we have a motion to approve the superintendent's consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda, the superintendent.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can you call roll, please?
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Before I go any further, I guess I failed to mention, trustee Finley is not with us this evening. I reminded myself of that when looking for you to do the role. She had, her son is, been recruited to play football, at the next level, and, so she was unable to be here this evening because of that. So congratulations to her and to her son for, those accomplishments. So, next we'll move on. We have our board's consent agenda, which contains the minutes of our special school board meeting for ratification hearing of the collective bargaining agreement with the PAT from November the 11th, our minutes from our discussion meeting on November the 11th, and the minutes of our executive session from November the 19th. Do we have a motion to approve the board's consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkie, yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Okay, next up, we've got board reports. Are there any board reports this evening?
I have one. The redevelopment commission met last week on the 21st of November. The items on the agenda included an update on the home TIF approval process, real estate purchase at 6051 Central. Staff reports, the 2025 Chamber of Commerce Community Compass magazine, the payment of emergency tree removal at Founder Square, and a resolution number 2403 concerning the 2025 spending plan. It was presented and approved by the commission and adopted. Included in this plan is the educational and training project in the amount of $250,000.
Which is way more than we've ever gotten before.
Yes, we're excited about that.
That's exciting. Did you hear that right?
Yes, I did.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll repeat it again. $250,000.
I don't know if we've ever gotten more than 100,000.
100,000.
Never in the 8+ years I've been.
No, and then we had a couple years recently, we didn't get anything.
Correct.
Right, so that's good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board reports?
Yes, I would like to announce a couple of fundraisers for the Portage Township Education Foundation. The Major Saver Card fundraiser is going on now. We highly encourage all of you to support our efforts by promoting this fundraiser and selling cards to your families and friends. The Education Foundation will give each individual school $2 each for each card sold by one of their students. This is our way of saying thank you to the schools for their help and support in this fundraiser. You can purchase a Major Saver card online at majorsaver.com/cards. Then you will choose Portage, Indiana from the drop-down menu. And then you can also choose a student that gets the credit for the card if you know a student in a particular school. Not only will you enjoy dozens of local discounts, but you will help the Education Foundation carry out our mission to support innovative learning experiences for teachers and students across Portage Township Schools Corporation. Major Saver cards make great gift ideas for the holidays, and you can select a card that features unique discounts from 16 different Indiana cities as well as 8 other states, all while still benefiting one of our local Portage schools. You can even give credit to a specific student, like I mentioned. You just select them in the drop-down menu. Another fundraiser we will be hosting is the world-famous Harlem Wizards on February 20th at Portage High School. This is a super fun family event, and tickets will go on sale December 2nd. All proceeds from this event and from the Major Saver cards will come back to the foundation and help fund grants for our PTS employees.
Great, thank you. Any other board reports? If not, we'll move on. We have our old business. We've got the approval to award the bid for the HVAC at Jones.
Sorry. All right, so, bids were opened on November 13th. Fanning Howie and Neely Mavrovich, our Director of Buildings and Grounds, held a pre-award meeting with 2 bidders on Friday, November 15th. The recommendation is to award the base bid and the alternate of the removal and wall infill to ACMS Group Incorporated as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder at a total contract price of $2,733,000. ACMS Group Associated Construction Management Services, Inc. is a signatory contractor with the Pipe Fitters Local 597. it's the recommendation from Fanning Howie to award that Jones HVAC project to ACMS.
Thank you. Do you have a motion to approve the HVAC award to ACMS Group?
I make a motion to approve the award bid for HVAC.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
When is this project going to be initiated, started?
This project will initiate the summer of 2025.
It will be complete before the beginning of the school year.
Correct. And look at Nick, you just saw him shaking
Yeah,
his head.
that's, thank you.
And we
Any
all
other
have
questions?
Melee too, you know.
Yeah. If Milay's involved, we know it'll be
Yes,
complete.
it will be
before the start
complete.
of the school. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkie, yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes. And next up, we've got the approval of the 2025-2026 school year calendar.
So, as we had discussed at our last public board meeting, just the considerations of how to creatively adjust the start of the school year within a framework of at least providing students with an additional weekend prior to the start of the school year, and then that would also provide our school year employees an additional 3 days at the end of summer. So Dr. Stevens did work up that third draft for your consideration that is attached here.
So I know there were a couple of questions, and I just, for the sake of transparency, I know there were some concerns from some folks, and I think Trustee Wilkie had a question just before the
Mhm.
meeting. So if we could maybe address those.
So I was just asking about the one concern about students having to come back from Christmas break and retain knowledge over Christmas break without the semester ending before that, and then them having to retain that knowledge and then possibly doing testing after that. I was just a little concerned about that.
Yes, so when looking at this third draft, our last student day would be December 19th of 2025, prior to that winter holiday. And students would then return to the district on January 5th, Monday, January 5th. So with that, it will be two full weeks without that instructional time. The teachers have Monday the 5th through the 9th there, that Friday, which will be the end of grading period. I did also get a couple of questions from our Teachers Association, just specifically that being one of the questions. And I had expressed to them that we can be creative in addressing that, as far as if some teachers are looking for an opportunity to start those final exams at the high school, the portions that they feel that their students are prepared to take prior to the break, they can kind of start that exam, then pause it if they would like, and then when they return, if there's any review that needs to be done for those final portions that week before, knowing that the grading period ends on the 9th. That's something that, you know, I know our principals would also be flexible in determining how and when those are provided to the students, because yes, when we're talking high school credit, we're talking college credit, and 2 weeks without that learning, and probably not much studying, understandably so, for those finals, would be something that we at least need to be mindful of going into a change like this. As far as some additional considerations, this third draft is not starting a full 2 weeks after the other districts. So what will occur is those districts will start, our surrounding districts will start with students on the 13th. So they will be in session 3 days longer than us at the start of the school year. Because then our students come the 18th. I know we talked about at our last meeting that a first week of school, back to school, or for kindergartners, their first go at school sometimes. A 5-day week can be a challenge. But that would be the issue that we've noted on the front end of the calendar. That's problematic, well, a challenge. I shouldn't say problematic, it's a challenge. I am grateful that Dr. Stevens, in working this, was still able to pretty well balance the quarters, and still keep our graduation date within reason so that we're not having students deploy to the armed forces or need to relocate for college and things where they would have to miss their high school graduation. You start to get into that a little bit further into June. So that would be something that's still preserved. So, it's one of those, it's a trick either direction.
It's a challenge, and appreciate your work on it. I will tell you, since we did get some press after our last meeting by some world-class reporter that wrote a nice article about it, I received a couple of emails from neighboring districts' school board members who said they had not even had any of these discussions with their districts, and obviously this next year isn't, but they would be interested in learning and talking more about the following year because they are in agreement as well that we should be working together, maybe delay it back. So it did spur some folks who said, hey, wait a minute, Portage is doing it, maybe we should be talking about it too.
Okay.
So, and that's coming from the school board level, not the administration level. So we'll see where that goes.
Right. I do think that the one thing that's real promising here is the way that Dr. Stevens worked this so that the conclusion of the first semester, having 5 days after the kids return for that semester, before that semester closes, is better than it's like, oh, you're back 1 day and now the semester's closing. So it does allow some of that revisiting of the content, so that kids at least get it back, their brain primed, and they're back into the swing of things before those exams. So again, even just the way that he creatively did that is helpful.
Very good, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion for the 2025-2026 school year calendar?
I make a motion of the approval of the 2025-2026 school calendar.
I'll second it.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion or comments? And here, none, call roll, please.
Trustee Wilkie, yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes,
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
thank you. Dr. Stevens, thank you. I know this was a challenge, and there was certainly a lot of extra effort put into that, and we certainly appreciate you, the extra work that you put into it.
And if I may, President Maleta, I think it's beneficial as well because Dr. Stevens has, through each of the drafts, communicated with our collaboration team, as well as this last draft specifically sent them out to our Portage Association of Teacher representation. And so they were able to help us brainstorm yet a few other challenges that we may not have considered, which will then help us to get ahead of finding ways to find some solutions and get some additional teacher input, because they're going to be more creative in ways to meet the challenges that might be presented than we're going to be able to come up with. So we do appreciate that they've continued to give feedback so that we can be mindful of those things that we may not have even considered.
Very good. And I'm sure our families are going to be appreciative of that, having that. It's going to feel like an extra week because you've got that extra weekend, even though it's really just the 3 days. But
Right.
it does extend their summer a little bit further
Mhm.
for them, so thank you.
I would also like to get some feedback from our families for the beginning of the school year to kind of see how they feel about it.
How they feel about this?
Mhm,
Okay.
about this
Yeah, that'd be good.
discussion.
Okay, next we'll move on to our new business. We've got the approval to partner with the Fax Education Solutions. Dr. Elenes?
Yes. So if you recall, through the ESEA Act of 1965, we're required to provide equitable funds to private school students living in their attendance area. So the Fax Education Solution provides Title I equitable services to Nativity of Our Savior School. And through our partnership, FACS provides all the components of that program to include the staffing, the assessments, the curriculum, training, and compliance documentation that Mrs. Williams and her team need to make certain that we are all following the federal requirements of this, as well as all of the funds that are at risk of any type of regulation concern. The agreement is for Nativity's full allocation amount to be $42,075.77 for this 24-25 school year, with $41,655.02 being for instruction and professional development. The additional $420.76 is for parent involvement.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the partner with FACS Education Solutions.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
Just one question, what number, enrollment number do they, I wonder, you may not know this, what they use in order to calculate this amount?
I believe that the share is a percentage, correct?
It's their number of students
At poverty, yes.
Oh, okay.
So I will be able to give you, I can give you that
No, I
exact
just wondered
breakdown.
how it
Okay.
was calculated.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkie? Yes.
Next, we have our approval of the overnight field trip for the Portage High School girls wrestling team to Columbia City, Indiana, November 29th and 30th. We have a motion to approve the field trip.
I make a motion to approve the overnight field trip.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call roll, please.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkie, yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Next, we have our approval of the 2025 medical, dental, vision premium rates.
For medical, after we've collaborated with our PTS insurance consultant, as well as our PTS insurance committee that represents various employee groups, as well as our USW and PAT employee groups, it was agreed that a 2% increase to the medical premium is necessary for 2025. As you know, PTS is self-insured for medical, and Anthem will continue to serve as PTS's third-party administrator. The new total annual rates are as follows. CDHP1 for a single individual, $6,266.86. CDHP1 family, $18,427.90. CDHP2 single, $8,232.81, and CHDP2 family, $23,487.15. For dental and vision, the PTS Insurance Committee has recommended MetLife as PTS dental and vision provider. Dental and vision with MetLife will be fully insured and have a rate guarantee from January 1st of 25 through December 31st of 26. The full details per employee group are also attached in the summary of benefits.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the 2025 medical, dental, and vision premium rates?
I make a motion to approve the 2025 medical, dental, vision premium rates.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkie, yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes. Okay, now we've got the approval of the updated permanent flex substitute teachers.
So, you may recall that our permanent substitutes, we have referred to who a permanent sub is in various ways. Now we've recategorized this as a permanent flex substitute teacher. What this means is, these are those individuals who come to the same school at our secondary level 5 days a week. They report not knowing where their assignment is going to be, but they have an assignment. From that, they sometimes are covering various teachers during a day, or they are covering one single teacher. The great thing is they have a guaranteed role 5 days a week. The challenge is that they never know what that role is going to look like. They don't have that flexibility of, oh, I work 3 days a week. They're there 5 days a week. So this group, after we looked at this. This was not a group that we had brought before you to increase. There are, I believe, 8 of these in the district between the high school and the 2 middle schools. So this is seeking the approval for an increase in the daily rate for what now we'll call the permanent flex substitute teacher. This will go back to November 1st, similar to, well, exactly to all of our other substitute raises that you approved last month. The new rate will be $125 per day for these permanent flex substitute teachers with the substitute teaching permit. If they are a permanent flex sub teacher and they have an Indiana teacher's license, they will have a rate of $135 a day. The permanent flex sub teachers will also be eligible to participate in our major medical health, dental, and vision plans effective January 1st of '25 at the support staff rates.
Great, thank you. Do you have a motion to approve the updated permanent flex substitute teacher rate?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions?
So I would think that now we wouldn't probably have a challenge to seek these kind of substitute teachers. In the past, it was really hard to find individuals. Was that the case most recently?
So we're in a very fortunate situation where we already have these folks. All of those positions are filled. The challenging wording of how we word each of those groups, by mistake, I had failed to bring this group forward just to receive an increase. Yes.
I really appreciate the fact that they will be eligible for the health.
Yes.
dental, and vision.
These folks with the 5 days a week work, they are eligible, yes.
Appreciate that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Can you call roll, please?
Trustee Wilkie, yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Next, we've got the approval to utilize Han auctioneers for our retired buses.
Han was used previously. Transportation is requesting to utilize Han auctioneers again to auction 12 retired PTS buses. 8 of the buses are standard school buses and 4 are special purpose buses. The price for the use of the auction is 10% of the total sale.
Do you have a motion to approve utilizing Han auctioneers for our retired buses? It looks like, what, there's 12 retired buses we're looking at?
Yes.
Do you have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? You can call roll, please.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkie? Yes.
Okay, next we've got our approval of course adoptions for Portage High School.
So excited to bring some additional opportunities to our students. The Art of Word Games, Fun with Language. This is a semester course under the State Course of 1064 Linguistics. Modern War and Conflict of the 21st Century, course number 1506. This is for sophomores through seniors. It's a semester for social studies. Computing Foundations for a Digital Age, course number 4565. All grade levels at the high school can take this, and it's a 1-semester course. Principles of Teaching, course number 7161. It is 2 semesters. Theater Arts, Special Topics. It's called an Ensemble Acting Troupe, and this is course number 4254 for juniors and seniors, and it's 2 semesters. Theater Production, sophomores through juniors. It is a theater pathway, 2 semesters. Jazz Strings and Jazz Orchestra. This is an ensemble, course number 4164, for current and upcoming PTS orchestra students. It is a full year required course, and they do compete in contest. And then Digital Design Capstone, course number 7246 for students who completed the digital design pathway, and this is also 2 semesters.
Thank you. Do you have a motion to approve the course adoptions for Portage High School?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just really excited about the principles of teaching I'm excited about the others as
Yes.
well, but being an educator, and we know that there are less and less teachers, and so hopefully this will encourage young people to seek that opportunity to follow in that career
Is that
path.
open to all 4 grades?
I believe that is juniors and seniors, but let me double check here. It does not say the target students, so I'm making a very large assumption there, but I can double check.
Thank you. These are great, some great variety and some new things. I'm sure there'll be some excitement for these from our students, so thank you for that. Any other discussion? You can call roll, please.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkie? Yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Next, we have our approval to apply for the EdFlex waiver.
Yes, so we would like to continue this EdFlex waiver from the IDOE. I'm sorry, we'd like to apply for this. It is a program through the U.S. Department of Education that grants state educational agencies the authority to waive statutory or regulatory education requirements that impede local efforts to reform and improve educational achievements. We plan to apply for 2 specific waivers. Waiver number 2, which is the increased flexibility in paraprofessional requirements. So with No Child Left Behind, all instructional paraprofessionals working in Title I school-wide schools must meet highly qualified status demonstrated by one of 2 ways, either completing 2 years of college or passing the parapro assessment with a score of 460 or higher. With the waiver, we utilize an additional pathway for meeting this requirement by successfully completing 10 courses in an online training platform for the paraeducator within 2 months of their employment. The second waiver, waiver number 4, we'd like to apply for is increased flexibility for spending requirements in Title IV for LEAs that receive over $30,000. If a district's total allocation is $30,000 or more, 1, a minimum of 20% must be allocated to Focus Area A for a well-rounded education. Requirement 2, a minimum of 20% must be allocated to Focus Area B, safe and healthy schools. And requirement 3, some must be allocated for Focus Area C in technology. So this waiver provides increased flexibility for Portage Township schools as the original grant was written, as well as when amended in order to better meet our current needs. So we would need to put the public notice, as we have on our website. We did not receive any comments during the time that the public notice was posted, and I would like to recommend, based on the expertise of Mrs. Williams, board's approval of the waiver application.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the application for the EdFlex waiver?
I make a motion for the approval of to apply for the EdFlex waiver.
A second?
We have a motion to second. Any discussion or questions?
I do have a comment and concern. So many of our instructional assistants that have been hired have probably about 2 years of college, which is equivalent to 60 credit hours. So my concern is, even based on today's personnel report, the hourly wage is $12.11. What can we do to recruit and retain some of our instructional assistants? And, they're very essential to the success of our students, and especially in the cases of kids who are struggling academically. So I did learn that in most districts, it's usually beginning at $13.10. So I just wondered if this is going to be addressed for instructional assistants. Again, in today's personnel report was $12.11.
I definitely know that we continue, as the board does, to want to continue to recruit and retain the best personnel for our students. I do believe that there are opportunities, as we always look to find ways to increase what those wages are, and we will continue to look to do that. There have been increases over these years. I do believe the one thing about the approval of this EdFlex waiver in particular is how it talks about impeding our ability to meet the requirements of No Child Left Behind with this, based on the requirements of what were the two options with being highly qualified. So adding that extra course of the 10 hours within 2 months gives us that third availability. Over time, we could possibly look at, is there a way that we could tier some of those options? I don't have the answer to that right now, but definitely something we can look at and work with not only our team within leadership, but also our support staff groups.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkie? Yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes. And lastly, we have our approval of contract and service agreements. We've got one with, for IT, with this Gibson Teledata, Curriculum Accutrans, Curriculum Breakout EDU, Curriculum Subject Technologies, Curriculum and IT for Locker GM, Transportation Department, Indiana Testing Incorporated, and Bindex ACOM AE, and Portage-I-2 Athletics, which is Belfrog. So, Dr. Allen, do you want to explain any of these that may need it?
Sure, so these are all software license. So when you look at that first one for IT, it is for phone licensing and maintenance, which is obviously very important on many levels. That comes out of our operations fund for a little over $11,800. Under the areas of curriculum, those are all coming out of the educational fund with the exception of Breakout EDU. That is $238 and coming out of the Title IV grant with Mrs. Williams and her team. Accutrans is the language translation service coming out of the education fund. Flex Credit Platform, this is for the subject of technology, and it is also coming out of education fund at a rate of $300 per license. Locker GM, it is still a thing that we need to be able to have a program for our lockers. Fortunately, this is only $1,650 for that license. That's out of education fund. Transportation, the license out of the operations fund for the drug and alcohol testing is $99 for the calendar year. These are all 1 year, by the way, I should mention. Transportation, also the bus mechanic diagnostic software. So that's in the amount of $1,377 out of operations. And for athletics, that is their web service and app for athletics at an amount of $4,500 annually, plus a $495 setup fee, and that comes out of the athletic extracurricular account for Ballfrog.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the contract service agreement and subscriptions as read?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
The motion and the second. Any discussion or questions on any of these? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Trustee Wilkie, yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we've got our superintendent report.
Just today alone was a very busy day, but a very productive one. I started my morning out at Central, where Mayor Bonta presented Central Elementary students and staff with a proclamation for their efforts in October during Homelessness Awareness Month. And they raised over $1,000 to support Family Promise for the 252 individuals in our community that are experiencing homelessness or on the verge of experiencing homelessness. So it was a really nice opportunity to see the students learn about where those funds that they collected were going to help in our community. I then completed Why We Stay opportunities to meet individually with teachers. Most of the day I was at Willow Creek, and then I finished up at Kyle. All very, very productive opportunities to just meet one-on-one with teachers. I'm excited as these are starting to wind down, as I've met with most schools at this point. The next step will be to meet with support staff. Eventually, I would like to also offer an opportunity to families to talk about why they also choose Portage Township Schools. I've gotten a lot of good information from our teachers, and it's kind of just a start of how I'm gonna compile some of this information to see where we can continue to address challenges, as every district has them, but also celebrate the things that families, teachers, support staff feel our schools are doing well. I just want to thank our food service team and our building teams for the wonderful Thanksgiving meal that occurred last week. In all my years in Portage Township Schools, this marks number 22, and this was the first time I was not here for that. So I did get to experience seeing a lot of the pictures online, and I know a lot of hard work goes into the preparation, the ordering, the preparing of the meal, just the overall experience that we provide to the students. So I appreciate everyone for doing that. I had the opportunity to also experience going to Jones, Kyle and Myers since our last meeting to talk about Aylesworth and Willow Creek and the upcoming opportunities to have our first new school since 1979. So that's been great. And Dr. Stevens has been very active in our schools, along with Stephanie Barrett, as they're meeting with principals one-on-one, talking about the assessment data, what reports they're utilizing to inform instruction after these assessments are given to our students, and how to best support the achievement side. So looking a little bit at that climate component, looking at culture of achievement, and getting out face-to-face with our people. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. We didn't receive any public comment forms, I don't believe.
No, we did not.
Anybody else on the board have anything they'd like to bring up this time?
Yes, I'd like to say that I am grateful for Principal Caballero at Figley. You were not in town, so I was in your place, I guess. Her hardworking staff at Figley for such an incredible candlelight luncheon last Friday. The students enjoyed their Thanksgiving feast, and their behavior was awesome. Maybe turning down the lights helped too. And special thank you to the food service staff, the custodians, and the teachers for recreating this tradition that's been going on for quite a long time. So I'm really appreciative that I had that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything this evening? So we've got, obviously, we've got an executive session immediately following this meeting this evening, and our next meeting is, I don't know, the 3rd. We're not doing the meeting on the 3rd now, Cindy? That's out? Okay, so December 16th will be our regular board meeting, and our last one for the year. So with that, thank you, everybody, for being here. This meeting's adjourned.